but I want to take a couple minutes and talk a little bit about why I think this is such an important issue and why it is my hope that the citizens of Milwaukee, the citizens of southeastern Wisconsin, the citizens of the state of Wisconsin engage on this issue and pay much more attention to the issue of highways, transportation, and funding. Each of those are important in their own right, and each of them, I think, deserve far more public scrutiny than they have received in the recent past. What we have going on right now is a situation here in the state of Wisconsin where we are seeing the potential for massive expenditures on highway spending. Specifically, we are here today to talk about the $1.9 billion price tag for the 34-mile extension or rebuilding of I-94 from the state border up to the city of Milwaukee. I do not oppose this reconstruction, nor, I believe, does Alderman Bauman. What I am calling for is a change in state policy and a creation of a balanced transportation policy in this state. About a year ago, I was talking to the then mayor of San Jose about an expansion that was occurring with the BART system, and I asked him how that came about, and his response was that in California they were able to create a balanced transportation system by really coordinating efforts, specifically among highways, among transit for rail, and transit for bus. They worked together. They tried to achieve wins for all forms of transportation and wins for the taxpayers at the same time. Earlier this year, I traveled to Denver, where they had recently approved a major expansion of their light rail system, and I inquired to the head of the Chamber of Commerce, who was in charge of leading the charge for this transit expansion, how this group became involved in it. And his response was, well, we believe in a balanced transportation system. That appears to be missing here in the State Department of Transportation's policy toward transit in particular, and in particular here in southeastern Wisconsin. What we need is the state to be much more engaged in the creation of a balanced transportation system. Probably like everyone here, I was in a car earlier today. I do not hate cars. I actually like cars very much. I like highways. But I think that we have to be cognizant of both the price tag and the changing dynamics in the world economy. Just before I came out here, I was looking, and of course the price of a barrel of oil is hovering in the mid-$90 range right now. It has nicked close to $100, and I don't think that we can have a transportation policy in the state which simply has us burying our head in a barrel of oil. I think that we have to understand that the price of oil is going to continue to rise. If you look at the projections for new vehicles in China and India, for example, just an asterisk in an increase in supply of automobiles in China or India has an impact on the demand for oil worldwide and the cost of oil worldwide. So as much as I talk about us being in a world economy and our need for us to compete on a worldwide basis, I think we also have to be mindful of what that world economy is doing in terms of creating demand for oil in other parts of the world, and thus raising the cost of us to use automobiles. Having said all that, I think it is also important to point out really the inequity in expectations when it comes to financing transit projects and highway projects. I've always said that the worst thing in the world is a tax and spend politician. People don't like tax and spend politicians. In fact, there's only one thing worse than a tax and spend politician, and that's a borrow and spend politician. Because at least a tax and spend politician will say, you want to benefit? Fine, here it is. This is what it's going to cost you. What we have right now is really, I think, borrow and spending going on at a maddening pace, in that no one has identified the source of funding for this $1.9 billion project. The largest public works project in the state's history, and we don't know where the money's going to come from. At the same time, those of us who are attempting to improve transit, whether it's the KRM or whether it's even improving transit here in Milwaukee, are told time and time again, we have to know where the money's coming from. I don't object to being told that we have to know where the money's coming from for these local projects. I just expect the state to provide the same standard for itself for these projects as it does for the local projects. I think it's up to the Department of Transportation to say where the $1.9 billion is going to come from. And particularly in light of the legislature's action in the last 2 years that eliminated indexing, there the potential source for much of the funding for this is now eliminated, yet we go forward with a plan that vastly expands the highways in the state. So this resolution calls for greater balance in the way the state spends transit dollars and expresses the city's support for a more strategic and comprehensive approach to transportation funding in southeastern Wisconsin. As I stated, right now the state plans to spend $1.9 billion in the construction and expansion of I-94 between Milwaukee and the Illinois line. This is another example of how the state, without batting an eye, spends billions and billions on highway construction. Yet other transportation alternatives, commuter rail, mass transit, continue to wither on the vine. No one is saying we should not rebuild I-94. In fact, they'll say it in the positive. We should rebuild I-94 and we should invest in our highways. But we must strike a better balance. Alternative transportation options like KRM, local mass transit, and high-speed inner-city rail can address a wide variety of issues, including increasing gas prices, environmental issues like global warming and saving area wetlands and farmlands, preventing sprawl, and relieving traffic congestion. Let's repair I-94 from the Mitchell to the Illinois state line. But instead of adding more lanes, let's invest those resources in other options. We can serve this corridor with other transit options. In doing so, we can fix the enormous disparity in state transportation funding. And as you can see, the difference is eye-popping. 9-to-1 ratio in the spending. And the amount that we're spending on highways continues to rise. The yellow area, the transit system, the transit funding continues to remain flat. At a time when we're seeing oil prices rise, at a time when we're concerned about global warming, to allow that to stagnate, I think, is a mistake. So that is why I applaud the actions of Alderman Bauman, and why I think it's very important that the city of Milwaukee, with this very strong vote out of the Common Council, really tells the state that yes, we support highway construction, rebuilding, but let's do this in a balanced fashion. Before I sign on